Welcome to the last class in our spring-summer series. It's almost summer. It's the solstice in about a week, next week. In about a week. And we're going to work with some sun salutations today. And our theme overall for the last 10 weeks has been about being on a journey and the different aspects of ourselves we might encounter on that journey. And today I'd like to talk about the idea of coming home. So when we go on a journey, we always ideally come home from that journey, and there's something sweet about being away and being on an adventure and being on a journey, but there's also something really grounding and wonderful about coming home. And in this context, talking about coming home to ourselves, coming home to our own being, but realizing that we've been changed in some way by the journey. And today I'd like to focus on the idea of radical self-acceptance or radical self-love. And many of us love ourselves when we feel good about what's going on in our lives. We accept ourselves when we, feel accepted by others. But when we have feelings that are uncomfortable or we feel like we've been rejected by others, sometimes it's easy to fall into a place where we doubt ourselves, or even worse, beat ourselves up. The sutras say to give your mind something else to chew on, right? So often what happens, and we have feelings, we have emotions, and everybody has emotions and feelings, and that's perfectly normal and fine. And what happens though is sometimes we're angry, we're sad, we have these uncomfortable and difficult feelings, and then the result of that is what's called meta feelings. So we have feelings about our feelings. So we might feel ashamed because we feel angry, or we might feel embarrassed because we cried, that kind of thing. And it's those meta emotions that really get in our way. And they take us to that place where we spin. How could I do that? Why did I do? How did I express myself in that way? Or whatever it is for us that keeps us in that spinning place. So give the mind some opposite food. Give it something else to do, to connect to. It doesn't have to be positive. If you're in a really challenging space, going all the way to a really positive place can, it can backfire because we just don't believe it. We're not there. But going to even a neutral place. I'm here. It's okay. What is, will be. Whatever words give you a little bit of ease and help to break up those meta emotions, the feeling bad about feeling bad. And so today, radical self-acceptance, radical self-love, whatever comes up, whatever challenges we meet, whatever obstacles we might believe stand in our way of the practice physically, mentally, emotionally, to find a way inside of us to simply accept what is in each moment. And this is a practice of mindfulness as well, coming back to the moment, back to a sense of, I'm here, it's okay, right now. Whenever we wander, whether we wander to good or bad, actually, it's helpful to come back to a place of just being with ourselves and without judgment. So I'll see you on the mat. We'll start lying down. So you can go ahead and lie down, get comfortable. So take a moment to shift and settle so that you feel like you can relax and let go of holding and tension in your body. Notice any sensations that may be present in your body. And if possible, try not to label them as good or bad, but open to that idea of radical acceptance of whatever is. If there's pain or tension, simply notice it as part of the bigger picture. Your experience may be more neutral, simply feeling pressure of your body on the ground. Or maybe it's a more curious experience. I don't seem to notice much. Where can I find any sensation? It's quite normal to feel very little or sometimes even nothing at all, a little numb in our bodies. So you can tune in and notice what's present for you at the physical level. And then start to tune into the rhythm and the flow of your own breathing. There's no need to alter or change the breath in any way. Feel the breath within the sanctuary of your body. Feel the movement in its natural state as much as possible, coming and going. And then check in and tune in to the state of your mind today. So some days the mind feels light and free, focused, or heavy sometimes. Sometimes there's thoughts that keep on grabbing our attention and wanting us to go with them. So notice what quality of mind you're bringing to the practice today. Is it a focused mind, a dull or heavy mind, a very active, maybe even jumping around from thought to thought kind of mind? And accepting whatever it is you discover. There's no need to change anything today. There's no need to create any aggression against our being in any way. Allowing ourselves to flow physically with the breath, the mind, the emotions today, and accepting whatever arises. And you might also tune in to see, are there any emotions present for you today? Are you bringing anything with you into this session? Or perhaps the theme itself has created some feelings or emotions for you. Many of us struggle to accept ourselves. And there's often a feeling that if only I could X, I would love myself. And the challenge is, could we find love for ourselves, find acceptance for ourselves, even of the things we don't particularly like or cherish? Very difficult to order. Take a few deeper breaths now. We'll begin to warm up the body in preparation for what's to come. So still on your back. Take the arms down to the sides of the body. We'll start by extending the arms straight up overhead, lifting them straight up through the air, backs of the hands coming toward the floor, not necessarily to the floor, and then arms coming back down to your sides. Your legs could be bent or straight. I find my lower back feels a little bit longer and more supported with my knees bent, but if it's better for you with straight legs, that's fine. Let's alternate bringing knees into the chest now. So as your arms come down, taking one knee in, giving a little squeeze. And then foot comes to the floor, arms reach overhead. And exhaling, other knee coming in. Continuing this movement for a few more rounds. Follow your own breath rhythm or just move at a comfortable pace and let the breath be natural. Next time your right knee is in toward your chest, stay there. Take a few breaths. If it's more comfortable to hold behind the thigh rather than the shin, you can hold behind the thigh. And we'll start to warm up the big muscles of the thighs by straightening and bending the knee. You can keep your hands on the leg or let them rest wherever it's comfortable. Stretching up and bending in. As you stretch up, you can flex your foot, taking the toes to point back toward your face. And then relax or point the toes as the knee comes in. Next time the leg is in the straighter position, and it doesn't have to be straight, it can be bent as much as you need to be comfortable. Circle that ankle around. One way and then the other. And then relax your foot and ankle, give the leg a little shake. And then we'll bring that knee back in toward the body, bring the foot to the floor, and extend that leg straight out. We'll work with just the right side for now. So you can take the right arm down alongside your body on the floor, and you'll take a breath in and extend that arm up and reach out through the heel. And then as you exhale, engage your core, bring your lower back toward the ground, lift the leg straight up and bring the arm down to the floor beside your hip. As you breathe in, keep the stomach muscles engaged as you extend the leg and arm away from each other. Exhaling, bringing them towards each other, they cross over, hand comes to the ground. Repeating that a few more times. You can use the left foot on the ground to help put a little pressure down to keep the lower back long and the core engaged. Next time the leg is coming towards you, rather than bringing the hand to the floor, bring it back behind your leg. You can bring the other hand there as well, either behind the thigh or up toward the calf. If you feel a lot of tightness in the back of the leg, you might offer that leg a little massage. And if the shape of your pose looks different from mine, that's fine. Maybe your knee is more bent, leg further away. Wherever you feel the stretch is where you want to be. And it's not a deep, deep stretch, and you don't want to feel it way up at the sit bone, but in the middle between the knee and the hip. If you still want a little more stretch and you feel strong in the core and the neck, you could exhale and lift your head towards your knee and take a breath there. And then slowly release down. Bring the knee to your chest. Bring the foot to the floor. Let's stretch out both legs and extend both arms overhead. Take a breath or two here. And then slowly release the arms down. Bend your knees again. Take your feet flat to the floor. And we'll bring the left knee in toward the chest and pause here for a few breaths. So either holding over the shin or behind the thigh. And then we can try moving the leg straighter and bending it in. If you want to coordinate your breathing here, inhale as you extend the leg, exhale as you bend and draw it in. Again, you can leave the leg in the air, circle the ankle around. Moving each direction a few times. And then relax your foot and ankle. Give the leg a little shake. And then knee toward the chest. You can extend that leg straight out on the ground, arm coming down beside the hip. Taking a breath in, extend the arm overhead. Engage your core, draw the lower back down, pressing into your right foot, lifting the left leg, lowering the left arm. Inhaling to extend. Exhale, crossing the arm past the leg to come to the ground. Continue a few more times. And next time the leg is lifting rather than passing the leg with the arm, you can bring that hand and maybe both hands behind the leg. Again, if you feel a lot of tightness, a little massage, rubbing to create a bit of heat, or gently digging the fingers in to create a little more space and circulation. And if you want a bit more stretch here, holding the leg either in the calf or the thigh, and exhale as you lift the head. Take a breath here. And then slowly release down. Bring the knee in toward the chest. Bring the foot to the floor. Let's stretch the legs out and extend the arms overhead. Take a couple of breaths here. And then lower the arms down and bend the knees, bring the feet back to the ground. We'll take the arms out to the sides. Work with a gentle twist here, taking a breath in. As you exhale, let the knees go one way. The head could release the other way if you like. And then knees to center, breathing in if you're coordinating breath. Exhale, knees to the other side. So you can do this movement with your arms on the ground. And if you want a little more twist in your upper back, you could alternately take the arms and bring them over your chest, holding opposite elbows. And then as the knees go one way, the head and elbows would go the opposite direction. And then when you come back to center next time, bring the knees into the chest and do a few rounds of Apanasana, knees coming towards you as you exhale, if you're coordinating your breath, and knees move away as you inhale. And then you can bring your feet to the floor, let the hands rest somewhere on your body, maybe where you can feel the breath a little bit, and take a few breaths here. So in each moment, can we be with ourselves without judgment? Maybe even reflecting back on the last little series, the first bit of class here, and if you ran into some challenges or obstacles, were you able to accept that that's the way it is for you today? And as we move forward through the class, taking this attitude of radical self-acceptance to whatever extent it's possible for you today. And if you find this theme challenging, know that it is challenging. And noticing where we judge or turn away from ourselves, not as a way of further judging, but a way of noticing, Once we're aware, we can start to shift our focus. But as long as our thoughts and feelings run in the background unconsciously, we're unable to make any real positive change. A few more breaths here. We're going to change our position to come to all fours. So as you're ready, you can roll onto your side. Use your opposite hand to support you as you come upright. You can come into table position or all fours. If you have a blanket handy and you want to give your knees some extra padding, please do. And the last class we did, we worked a lot with downward dog. So talked about the positioning of the hands. So making sure that your hands and wrists are comfortable. If you need to change positions, you can always come onto your fists or down onto your forearms to give your wrists a little bit of a break. So we'll start with moving from all fours to child's pose, or you can do the alternate version of all fours, cat-cow, staying up on all fours. So arching on your inhale and either rounding and staying upright or moving the hips back toward the heels as you exhale. Trying to make sure you're not locking the arms, especially as you come forward into the cow position. You might even bend your elbows, squeeze the elbows in a little, let the chest come forward. And exhaling and reaching out through the arms. You can stay with whatever movement feels good on all fours here, or if you'd like, you can start to add in a downward dog. So coming into downward dog as you exhale, and we'll keep moving dynamically back to all fours, and then to child's pose or cat pose. If you feel tired or this is challenging in some way that doesn't feel good for you, you can always rest in child's pose. All right, let's come back to all fours and we'll take the forearms down to the mat now. And have the shoulders lining up over the elbows, if possible. So elbows in under the shoulders and the hands straight out from the elbows so your lower arms are parallel to one another. So from here, you can actually tuck your toes under, makes it a little easier, I find. Shift the weight back without letting the elbows come apart. Shift the weight back till you feel some restriction at the shoulders, not forcing it at all, and then shift the weight forward again. So getting a sense of the feeling of this position with the elbows in under the shoulders, how that feels on your shoulders. And you can either stay with this movement if this feels like enough for you. If you want to work much more strongly with this position, you can actually, with your toes tucked under, press into the forearms and lift the hips up into dolphin pose. So the knees can stay a little bent. Just like in downward dog, we want to make sure we're not collapsing into the shoulders, but pressing down into the ground, opening up through the armpits, lengthening the lower back, as much bend in your knees as you need, and let's release. If child's pose is comfortable, come back to child's pose. The head could rest on the hands or the arms could come back by the feet. Take a few breaths here wherever you find yourself. And then when you're ready to come out of child's pose, you can come up to a kneeling position. Now, if your knees don't like to sit in this position with your hips back on your heels, which is, it's quite a flexion for the knees. If it's more comfortable and accessible for you to be up here in this position, you can start here. If neither of those works for you, you can sit on a chair. to do this movement. It'll be a modified kind of movement. So I'll try and explain that as we go. So we're taking the arms up with the breath in, whether you're on your knees or in a chair. And then exhale to child's pose. So in a chair, just coming to a forward bend. To cow pose as you inhale. So same if you're on a chair, and then you go back to a forward bend on a chair and coming to downward dog if you're starting on all fours, and then back to all fours. Back to child's pose. High kneeling, lifting all the way up. You can breathe in here. And then exhale, either to high kneeling or to low kneeling, depending on, again, what's comfortable for your knees. So this time we'll add warrior pose in. So from downward dog, we'll step forward from warrior, and that's a fairly challenging move. So if it's helpful for you to blocks under your hands at the front of the mat to make that happen, you can do that. And any other variation that helps you to get there is fine. So from our kneeling position, lifting up, exhaling, child's pose. Inhale, come to all fours. Exhale, downward dog. Take your time here. We're going to step the left foot forward. So again, if you have blocks and that's helpful, you can use them. You can also lower your right knee and step forward with the left foot. Often, if you do that, you can lift the left hand and give yourself some more space. So however you want to get there, you'll end up with the left foot forward, right foot behind you. And for warrior pose, you might want to step that back foot a little bit forward, make the pose a little shorter in the stance. Turning the foot to the right, right foot to the right. Inhale and lift up into warrior one. And we'll move forward in warrior one, either hands to the thigh or to blocks if you have them, or the ground. You can move the front leg a little bit straighter as you come forward. And inhale, lifting. So any version of the forward fold that works for you. If you bring your hands to your thigh, just make sure you're not pressing back and hyperextending your knee. Keep a little bit of a bend there. We're going to come forward and switch sides. You have two options. The easier option to switch sides is to step forward with your right foot, step back with your left. The more challenging option would be to step back with your left foot, downward dog, step forward with your right foot. So however you choose to get there, your right foot will be forward, left foot behind you. Again, you might step it a bit forward and turn the toes to the left. Inhaling, lifting to warrior one. Exhaling, coming forward any amount. Repeating that movement in your own comfortable time and rhythm. Right, and this time we'll bring the hands down. And you can step back to downward dog. From your downward dog, we'll lower the knees. Breathing in from table, exhale to child's pose. From child's pose, inhale, high kneeling. And from high kneeling back to wherever you started. So this time when we come up into warrior, we'll come into also warrior two and work a little bit with a side bend. So I mentioned earlier, we'll work with sun salutation. So this kneeling sequence is a form of sun salutation. And sun salutations are great for creating lots of opening in the front and the back of the body. And when we add a twist, which we did earlier, the lying twist, and a side bend, we get all the ways that the spine moves in a fairly simple kind of practice. So let's follow through this kneeling sun sequence again, sun salutation sequence again, and we'll add the side bend this time. So coming up with the breath in, exhaling, child's pose. Inhale, come to all fours. And then as you exhale, tuck your toes, lift the hips, downward dog. Again, take as much time and whatever variation is helpful for you to bring the left foot forward between your hands. And again, you might step the right foot a little forward, turn it out to the side, and that's going to shorten the stance and make things a little more stable. Inhale, lifting up. Of course, if you want more challenge, feet wider apart is the way to get that. Turning to the side, you can open that back foot a little bit. Check down that your left knee is pointing straight ahead over your ankle, so it's not twisting inward, straight out. So there's a little bit of external rotation in that left hip. Now the angle of your hips is dependent on what angle you need to maintain that straight ahead knee. So if we pull the right hip back, the left knee is going to move with it. So find the position where the hips are a little on an angle to the side, the knee is straight forward, and the back foot is in a comfortable position. If you can bring the shoulders square-ish to the edge of your mat without compromising the knee, you might do that. But again, shoulders could be on a bit of an angle with the hips, whatever is comfortable here. So from here, you'll take the arms to the sides, take a breath in. As you exhale, reach your hand down, left hand to the left thigh. It could be elbow to the thigh or forearm to the thigh if you prefer. And this arm up in the air, we're going to bring it down towards the hip. You can turn your shoulders toward the ground, sweep the arm over the ground, and lift up and overhead. As you come up overhead, you might find, especially if there's restriction in your shoulder, you might find it more comfortable to bend the arm as you come overhead. If you want to coordinate your breathing, exhale through the downward moving part of the circle and inhale in the upward part of the circle. Let's do one more circle here, and this time as you're coming through the upward part of the circle, let that lift you back up to Warrior Two. Good. From Warrior Two, lift up the back heel, swing your back arm overhead, and pivot to turn forward again, arms coming down to the ground. Again, you have the choice. We're going to switch sides, either step forward or step back. Pause in downward dog or the forward bend for a moment. And then end up with the right foot forward, the left foot turned out. And then from there, you'll lift up with the breath in. And exhale here, and we'll set things up for Warrior Two. So Warrior Two, you're turning to the side. You can open up your left foot a little bit. Right knee stays pointing straight forward. And again, hips, shoulders are on whatever angle you need to maintain. I'm going to just turn around so that I'm actually facing the screen here. So hips, wherever they need to be to allow your knee to be straight forward. Shoulders, if possible, coming back to more or less line up with the long edge of your mat, but only if that doesn't compromise this knee. From there, arms to the sides, breathing in. Exhale and come down, either hand or forearm to the thigh. Make sure you're not collapsing down into that, but lengthening up. And this back arm can circle, coming down by the hip. Turn the shoulders toward the ground. Sweep the hand over the mat and lift up. Again, maybe bending the elbow as it comes around if that's more comfortable on your shoulder. So going around and lifting. Exhale if you're coordinating the breath and the part of the circle that's lowering the arm. Inhale as the arm is lifting. Next time, The arm is lifting. Let it lift you all the way back up to warrior two. And again, we'll lift the back heel, swing the arm over, pivot on the back foot, bring the arms down. Step forward now to Uttanasana, the standing forward bend, and then bring your hands onto your shins and lengthen. Breathing in, exhale, fold forward. Inhale and lift all the way up. Exhale and release the arms down to your sides. So coming to Tadasana, the mountain pose. Taking a few breaths here. Feet are underneath the hips more or less. Feet parallel to one another, if that's comfortable for you. For most people, it feels a little pigeon-toed with the feet parallel to one another because many of us stand with the feet turned out. It's not wrong. It's not like one is right or one is wrong, but as we bring the feet in and we rotate at the hips, there's often a little bit more space around the sacroiliac joints, the SI joints in the back of the body. So see how that feels if you turn your feet so that they're parallel to one another. And maybe just play around with how it feels in the hips. I feel a little constricted as I start to turn the feet out. It feels constricted around the back of the hips. But you can find a position that's comfortable for you. So for some people, having the feet parallel puts a torque on the knees that's uncomfortable. So letting go of these hard and fast alignment rules and finding ways that the poses feel good in our bodies as long as we're not creating injury or unhealthy habits and patterns. Well, let's take the shoulders, lift them up, and roll them back and down. Right, and then coming to relaxed shoulders, turn the palms forward, take a breath in, raise the arms overhead. Bring your palms together and slide the hands down in front of the heart. Take a breath in, lift the arms up. Big circle around, exhaling. Let your hands come behind your back, interlace your fingers and lift the heart. Shoulders down, chest open. Release the hands, slide them down your thighs. Either stop with hands or elbows on knees or reach all the way down toward the feet. Take a couple of breaths. Coming up with a breath in, reaching overhead. Bring the palms together and down into the chest. Put a little pressure against the hands. Press the palms a little more firmly together and draw the heels of your hands down towards the floor. Release the pressure. Turn the fingertips down, and without lifting the shoulders up, put a little pressure against the hands. And if you want more stretch, start to lift the hands up. But if the shoulders start coming up with the hands, it's too much. So shoulders down, a little pressure on the hands. And release, make fists, and do some circles with your fists. One way and then the other. Okay, and then give them a shake. Take the feet a little bit further apart. Let the hands rest on the hips and circle the hips around. So again, one direction and then switch, go the other way. Wonderful. And let's come back to the center and bring the feet in a little closer. We'll take the arms up, take a breath in. Exhaling, bring the hands down in front of you again. And this time we'll take the palms and turn them down with the thumbs side by side. And let the backs of your hands come together and turn your fingers towards you. And keep rolling until the hands reach out in front of you, palms up. And then we'll reverse. So backs of the hands come together, fingertips roll in, down, around, and the palms come back together at the heart. Make sure you're breathing as you do this. So palms down, backs of the hands together, a little bit of pressure as you roll around and release. And then backs of the hands come together, fingers in, down, around, and back to the heart. Good. Take a big breath in, exhale, and release. Before we go into our next sun salutation, take a moment and encourage yourself to accept whatever comes of this sun salutation. If it's challenging, if it's easy, if it's impossible, if there are certain parts that are more challenging than others, just notice that challenge and see if you can accept where you're at right now. Whatever you experience in the sun salutation is perfectly fine. It is as it should be. Can you accept whatever it is that you discover? You know, maybe it's super simple for you. Maybe this is an easy practice for you. So accept that. Maybe you want more. Accept that. So let's start near the front of the mat. Take a moment to tune in and notice your body. So perhaps even in that noticing, there's a story or a challenge that appears for you. Simply notice that with as much acceptance as possible. And where acceptance is impossible, see if you can bring kindness to that noticing, compassion, empathy for yourself. Well, let's take a breath in and lift the arms overhead. You can find a little bit of lift in the heart. You can bring the palms together, bring the hands down through the body, bend the knees a little, and bow forward into the first position of the sun salutation, bowing to the sun. We'll take our time, take a few breaths in each position as we go through this first one. Hands come to the shins or the knees. We're looking for a little bit of arch in the lower back. Shoulders move back, back extends, and then releasing the chest toward the thighs, arms toward the ground, head down. Take a breath or two here. And then we'll step back with the right foot to come into lunge. So in lunge, think about drawing the back hip forward a little, forward hip back, so you feel like you're engaging the muscles of the thighs and hips. And then from here, we'll step back to downward dog. From downward dog, come up onto your toes, bend your knees, lower the knees to come to all fours. So from all fours, we're going to make our way right down to the ground. So you might want to bring your hands a little bit forward of the position where they currently are, so that as you bring your hips forward and down, the shoulders line up over the wrists, and the body is in a flat line like a plank. From here, you can roll the body down, bending the elbows, thighs come down, belly, chest, and forehead. The feet can be tucked under with the toes, and that's helpful if you are prone to cramping in the feet or flat feet, toenails on the ground. Press down into your hips and thighs. Gently engage the muscles around your hips and buttocks. And then lift with an inhale, coming into cobra. Squeeze your elbows in. And let there be no pressure on your hands. Let the muscles of your back do the work. You might be a little lower, you might be a little higher, depending on what's right for you. And then pressing into the palms, come up to all fours. You can walk the hands back, and come into whatever version of child's pose is good for you. And if your knees don't want to bend all the way into child's pose, being in a modified version of puppy up on the elbows might be better for you. And wherever you find yourself, can you find acceptance? the good, the challenging, the neutral. So from here, we'll come back to all fours. We'll be stepping the right foot forward between the hands. So you can either do that from all fours if you find that easier, blocks under the hands if you need them and have them. And otherwise, from downward dog, the easiest time to step forward is right when you've finished exhaling. So you take a breath in, exhale completely, look forward, and step the right foot forward. Good. Again, in lunge, we want to think about drawing back with the forward hip, forward with the back hip, feeling engaged through the thighs and hips. And then from there, stepping forward. Head releasing down. Bring your hands to your shins and lengthen. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, come all the way up. Let the hands come together overhead, down through the heart, and down to your sides. Pause here, check in with how you feel now. And come back to that grounded place in Tadasana where the heels sink into the earth, the shoulders move back and down, crown of the head extending towards the sky. Again, lifting the arms, breathing in, bring the hands together. Exhale, hands come down through the heart, bending forward at the hips. And then inhale, find length in the spine, either hands on the knees or shins, or could even be on the floor beside your feet if you've got that level of flexibility. Exhale, fold forward. We'll step back with the left foot first this time. So reaching back for lunge, squaring the hips, which means the right hip is moving forward, left hip is moving back. And you can either stay here with your hands on the ground, or if you want to challenge your balance a little bit and your acceptance of wherever you're at, you can bring the hands up onto the front knee. And if you still want a little more challenge, you can start to lift the upper body over the legs and reach the arms overhead. The more you sink into that front knee, the more challenging the pose becomes. But you don't want to take your front knee beyond your ankle. So just stacked on top of your ankle or straighter is easier, either position. If you've come upright, bring the hands down. Let's step back to plank this time. So you want to find a nice flat line in the body, and you can do this either with the knees up or down. From here, we'll lower to the ground. So again, you can let the body roll down, thighs to forehead. Toes tucked under or feet flat. Exhale, press down into the hips and thighs. Inhale, lift into cobra. Squeeze in with the elbows. Take a breath here. And then coming to all fours and either modified child's pose with the hips a little higher, or coming back to child's pose, hips to the heels if that's available. And again, tuning into being with whatever is in this moment, radical self-acceptance. When you're ready to come up, we'll come back to all fours. Again, you can step forward from all fours or from downward dog. We'll be stepping the left foot forward. So again, the easiest time to do that is after an exhale. You'll step forward. Again, you can stay here with the hands on the ground, or if you want to challenge your balance a little more, you can bring the hands up onto the front knee. And if you still feel like you want more here and you're up for more challenge, you can try extending the arms overhead. Palms face each other, shoulders move down, front knee no more than over the ankle. Straighter is easier. So find the position that works for you. And then we'll bring the hands down and step forward. Hands to shins or knees, lengthening with an inhale, folding forward and releasing with an exhale. And then coming all the way up, breathing in, exhale to release. So taking a few breaths back in Tadasana, back in mountain pose. You might be aware of your heart rate, maybe even a little bit of warmth from our couple of sun salutations. You know, the idea of the sun salutation is it is a little faster moving, a flowing moving, working the big muscles of the body, so it can be heating, especially if we do more than two, if you do a few sun salutations. And there's lots of different versions, some more challenging than others. So take a moment here, let your breath settle, let your heart rate settle. Right, and then you can take the feet a little bit apart, shoulder distance or slightly wider, whatever's comfortable for you. We'll do a forward bend from here. And we'll start to make our way back down to the ground in a moment. So coming up with the breath in. As you exhale, bend your knees. Take your forearms to your thighs, fingertips together. Press back with your arms and take a breath here. Inhale, lift all the way up. Good, and you can come back to that same position, or if you like, you could let the arms hang toward the ground and take a few breaths there. Right, when you're ready to come up, lifting all the way back up with breath in, exhaling to release. Great. And let's come down to the ground and we'll sit for just a couple of minutes today, doing a little bit of breath awareness, mindfulness. So find a comfortable seat. You can be on the ground, you may be sitting on a cushion or a folded blanket, you could be on a chair, there's absolutely no problem with that, even on the edge of your couch if you like. My suggestion would be to not use the back of the couch or the chair if you're on such things, so you're not slumping and rounding. You want to use your own bones and muscles to support an upright position as much as possible. We'll take a couple of minutes seated and then we'll shift to lying down in a moment. So if you find sitting very uncomfortable for you, simply accept that that's your reality and you can come to lie down anytime. Eyes can be open or closed. If you choose to keep your eyes open, you might let the gaze come down on an angle to about 6 feet in front of you so that the head remains upright, the gaze softly cast down. And simply breathing here, no particular special way to breathe. But noticing the feeling, the movement of your breath. And we'll start by bringing awareness around the rib cage. See if you can feel an expansion around the rib cage. You may not feel anything at all with your breath. You may be aware that you're breathing, but there's no real sensation or awareness of movement in the body. And if that's the case, you might simply notice, that's curious, I don't feel any movement here. And then shift your attention down into the area of the abdomen, lower back, waist area, and see what movement is available to you there. So again, if you feel nothing, if you feel no movement, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It may be that the movement is more subtle, or your awareness just isn't tuned in at that level. Or there may actually not be a lot of movement in your belly or your chest when you breathe. And then let's shift our awareness again with the breath and bring your attention right to the tip of your nostrils. So feeling the quality, texture, temperature of the breath as it comes in. And then noticing any sensations as the breath leaves through the nostrils. If you can't breathe through your nose because it's plugged up or any other reason, breathing through the mouth and just noticing where you feel the breath as it enters your body. And then before we come to lie down, take a few normal breaths. And a little cat-cow movement. Inhale, arching, exhale, and rounding the back. If you want to circle, do a few circles. If you want to stay with cat-cow, stay with that. And then we have just a few minutes left for relaxation. So you can go ahead and lie down if you like. If you prefer to stay seated, that's a fine option as well. And as always, I'd invite you, if you want to take a longer rest at the end of class, to just ignore my instructions to come out of the pose and simply stay until you feel ready to move on. So getting comfortable lying down, if you've chosen to switch positions. Even though it's almost the summer solstice, if you're in the part of the world where I am, it's not so warm. So make sure you're cozy and comfortable. And as you settle your body, come back to your breath. And in particular, take a little focus onto the exhalation and a feeling that you could let go of tension and holding in the body as you exhale. So let your exhalation bring awareness to wherever you need to let go and find that release as you exhale as much as possible. If there's holding, tension, discomfort, or pain in the body that is impossible to let go of or release, simply acknowledge that with as much self-love and acceptance as possible. If you find your mind wandering, come back to a feeling of dropping down with each exhale. So the mind has some other food to chew on other than, wherever it might wander off to. Continuing to soften with each breath, letting go of the effort of the practice. Arms and legs sink down. Hands and feet let go. Exhale, drop down through the pelvis, the lower back and the back of the rib cage. And releasing, letting go of any tension in the neck and the head. Jaw relaxing. Face muscles softening. I'll share a chant with you. It's one of the most popular chants from the Vedas called the Gayatri Mantra. And it's a celebration of the heat of the sun and asking the sun to bring us clarity and to bring us purification. So purifying, finding clarity, and celebrating the sun in all of its glory. Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayate. Om. So if you're ready to move back into the world and come out of Shavasana, you can start to add a little movement as you're ready, deepening your breath, wiggling your fingers and toes. And if you've chosen to stay longer, absorb a little more of the practice through rest, you can just ignore these last few words. Stay with yourself, the radical acceptance and self-love to whatever extent is available. If you're ending the class with me coming eventually and slowly to a seated position, and bring your palms together. So as you go out into the world, take with you this idea of accepting whatever is. You accepting your feelings, your situation. It doesn't mean that we don't work towards change, but that we accept things as they are. Accepting ourselves, our feelings, our emotions as they are. So taking that into your day with you. And if this is a challenging theme for you today, finding as much self-compassion as possible. It's not always easy to love ourselves, to accept ourselves, but it is the key to greater joy and happiness in ourselves and in our relationships. Namaste.